Hi guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of how to deal with loss and grieving and the techniques that you can use. So if you haven't seen the first video, please click on the videos, watch those, and then come back here to part number 2, okay? So part number 2, phase 2. As you remember something that causes you pain and suffering with that person, if you've already gone through that painful experience and you already went through the memory that was in your mind, and that experience has something that you have already suffered and cried through, put it away in that historical data file and don't revisit it because you already went through it. Okay, that's number 1. Now, number 2 is that when you are reminded of that same memory that you went through, you want to then immediately grab that memory in your head. You have 5 seconds to do it and say, wait a second, I already took this class. I already had this memory. I already suffered through this. I don't need to go through it like a hamster on a hamster wheel and repeat the same thing. And you pop it away. That's very important. Okay, and don't forget, in video number 1, I had mentioned that you can log down a list or a notebook or in your cell phone under notes or contacts an actual bullet point of every single thing that you remember about that person, so you don't have to have your brain constantly try to re-trigger the memory. So that way it's out of your mind, backed up externally, away from you. And that's very important, okay? Now, if you find that you're outside and then you see something that triggers that same memory, say, wait a minute, I already had this suffering. I already went through it. I already suffered through it. I don't need to repeat that suffering again. And bang, you pop it away. And you choose whether or not you want to watch that video. You understand, that sad video or that horror video or not. There are some terrible things that you may have seen when you lose somebody. And you have a choice whether or not to look at it in your mind. You don't have to look at it. You have a choice. You can turn it off. You can shut it off. You can look at something positive or something that inspires you. All right? And listen, if that person that loved you, that you loved, okay, is no longer physically here in a way that you can see them, right? Then wouldn't you owe it to them to keep going on, not only for yourself, but for them too? Otherwise, their passing was for nothing. So it's your job to keep going on and look for your purpose, look for your to-do list, look for who and how you can help not only yourself but others. And that's very, very crucial and important, okay? Now, the healthy part of suffering and crying and experiencing pain is if you can grow from it, if you can become a better person and get from that caterpillar to that butterfly experience. So, if you have a new memory, let's say you're outside and you hear a song playing and it reminds you of that person and it just crushes you and you feel that punched in the chest feeling and you can't stand it, that's okay. Feel it, let it pass through you, okay? Let it just come into you and through you and out, okay? And experience the feeling, but clock yourself as hard as you can. Say, I will allow myself to indulge in this terrible, painful feeling for not more than, let's say, 2 hours, okay? And at that 2-hour point, you must shake yourself out of it. Or go to sleep, take a nap, and then wake up and start fresh. Play happy music to get through these feelings. You got to change your experience. Very important, okay? And again, if you're just tuning in, make sure to see the first video so this part makes sense, so it connects, okay? So this being video number 2, the point is that every time you have a new memory of something from the past that makes you miss that person, and a new thing you're remembering in your past about them that makes you just terribly sad, experience it one time, just like you went to a new class, and then when you finish that class and that day's lesson, that memory, that experience, you have to put it away. And that's when you write it down again in that little contact sheet list that I told you to make earlier in the first video about that person. So you always have it there logged down. As long as it's backed up externally and not in your mind only, your brain will stop recycling through like a clock trying to remind you of that same memory. As long as it's externally backed up. That's why it's important you write it down or you type it into your phone so that you know that you are now the owner of the memory. You're in charge of when you want to be remembering that experience or not. You have the choice now when you can look at the memory or not look at it. You don't have to have your mind keep trying to remind you for fear that you'll forget. That's the other thing too. A lot of people are scared they'll forget the person. So they keep trying to think about them. And they also are frightened they'll erase the person from existence by not remembering them. And that's not true. You will always remember that person you loved. That's impossible to delete. But you can manage and reduce the amount of suffering you have when you remember them. And wouldn't it be nicer to remember the person and smile and feel feelings of love and joy when you remember them versus feelings of loss, grieving, and sadness? And this is the kind of transition phase that we're trying to get through. So, again, by the way, for those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Graig Weich. So thank you for coming here, and I hope that it will be useful to you. Make sure to subscribe for updates so you can see the updated videos. Post your comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. That being said, it's also very important to talk to other people who have experienced loss and see what their techniques are. Definitely join a support group if it helps you to talk about it. Some people, it causes more pain to hear other people's suffering, and to talk about their own suffering. Some people find camaraderie in it. So you have to know who you are and how you react to things. It's very important also. Nobody can tell you when to stop grieving. There is no stopping of the grieving. You will always miss that person, but you want to miss them in a healthy way where it doesn't harm you. The whole purpose of remembering that person should be to inspire you to find your purpose, yourself. No matter how old you are, you could always do something to help yourself and others. That's very important. And it is also crucial to try to remember every time you have a different memory, every time you have a different kind of memory, that like a flashback with your experience of that person. Write it down, and if you've cried through that memory, cry it out of your system and then put it away. But don't repeat it, otherwise you're hurting yourself. If you're losing sleep, if you're getting headaches, if your eyes are swelling up, if you can't function, if you're unable to get out of bed, then the memories are hurting you. They're pushing you down. You understand? And that is no way to live. And I'm sure that the person who passed would not have wanted to see you suffer. Okay? So the idea is, if you remember it for the first time, suffer through it, and then let it go by putting it into your physical backup drive so that you can go retrieve it when you want to. If you're in a certain mindset and you feel terrific and you say, hey, you know what, I missed that person, I really want to go remember this, you have it written down. You see what I'm saying? But also time yourself. Don't allow yourself to be there for more than 2 to 4 hours maximum. All right? That's the amount of grieving time you're allowed to have, and that's it. If you pass that point, you're now going to keep going downward spiral. So you've got to set up things to help yourself. Good song lists, playlists, happy comedy shows, things to shake you out of it and change your focus away from that pain and suffering. Okay? So that is the second phase. Now the third phase is going to be, what can you do that you enjoy? Who can you get together with that helps build you up? Are you the kind of person that wants to distract yourself and not talk about it? Are you the kind of person that wants to talk about it and get it out of your system? Who is the friend that you can find or have, or support group you can find online or in person that can help you handle that? That's very important that you spend time to look for that. Also, do things that don't necessarily distract you from what happened, but that also give you purpose. Even if you get a little puppy or a little kitten or something that gives you a sense of responsibility to take care of outside of yourself. And that kind of focus will help you reduce some of the suffering so that you go from being all the way down here suffering to kind of bringing yourself up to like a healthy balance. You know what I'm saying? So that's the next part of it. Now, there's a lot more to this, too, that I want to discuss. So please, guys, I'll post the third video coming up. So, again, post your comments below. Check out the other videos and make sure to subscribe for updates. This is Graig Weich. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.